You have tuned in to another episode of the Double Edge Factor. I am your host, Rod Manuel, and peace and blessings unto you. Before we get going, be sure to like, follow, and hit that subscribe button because the more positive interactions you put out there, the more they push this podcast to people who've never heard it before, which, of course, will allow us to grow and have a greater impact on more people around the world. So, if you don't mind, go to rodmanuel.com. That's RODMANUEL.com. Join that email list and remember to like, follow, and subscribe. All right. Today, we are going to get into something I think a lot of us struggle with, but don't always have the language to express it. It's this tension between wanting to be good and wanting to be nice, between standing up for what's right and keeping the peace, between being a man of principle and being someone people like. The title of this episode is Sometimes You Gotta Go to War for Peace. And I know that sounds a little contradictory. How can you fight for peace? Isn't that the whole issue, right? But stay with me here because I think this paradox sits at the heart of one of the most difficult challenges we face as people trying to live with integrity. Let me tell you about a story. A few years ago, a friend of mine, I'm just gonna call him Alan. He was like one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. He's always smiling, always agreeable, always there when you needed him. If you asked Alan to for a favor, say 2 a.m, he'd be the one to show up with coffee in a toolbox. He never complained. He never made waves. He never said no. Everybody, everybody loved Alan, or at least that's what it looked like on the surface. But here's what I noticed: Alan, my man, he was miserable. He was exhausted. He was exhausted all the time, right? So his own projects never got done because he was always helping somebody else. His relationships were one-sided. He always gave everything but received nothing. And the people he bent over backwards for, they didn't even respect him. They really took him for granted. So some of them, they even mocked him behind his back for being such a pushover. So Alan is what I like to call, he fell into the nice guy trap. He confused being good with being agreeable. He thought that if he just never rocked the boat, never said no, never stood up for himself, he'd be a good person. He'd be liked. He'd have peace. But that's not really peace. That's more like surrender. Here's the thing we need to understand. Nice and good are not the same. They're not even cousins. Sometimes they overlap, of course, but often they're in direct conflict. Nice is about avoiding conflict. It's about smoothing things over, keeping people comfortable, not making waves. Nice is external. It's about how others perceive you. Good, on the other hand, good is about doing what's right. It's about having principles and standing by them, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you. Good is internal. It's about who you actually are when no one is watching. A nice guy lets his boundary get violated because he doesn't want to cause a scene. A good man, on the other hand, enforces his boundary because he knows that boundaries are how we maintain healthy relationships and self-respect. A nice guy agrees with everyone to avoid that argument. A good man speaks the truth, even when it's unpopular, because the truth matters more than approval. A nice guy watches injustice happen and says nothing because he doesn't want to get involved. A good man intervenes, even though it might cost him something. You see the difference? Nice guys seek comfort. Good guys, they seek truth and they seek justice, even at the cost of comfort. There's a quote attributed to Edmund Burke. It says this: "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." I think about this a lot. How many times have you seen something wrong just happening? Maybe at work, maybe in your family, maybe in your community, and you said nothing. Not because you agreed with it, because speaking up would have been awkward. It would have made you the difficult one, the troublemaker, the guy who can't just let things go. I've been there. We all have. And every time we choose silence to maintain false peace, we're not being good men. We're being nice guys. And there's a cost to that. Because when you don't speak up, when you don't speak up against the racist joke, or you're signaling that racism is acceptable in your presence, when you don't confront the friend who's treating their partner badly, you're enabling abuse. When you don't challenge the unethical practice at work, you're being complicit in the corruption. This is where the war begins. Not a physical war, but a war nonetheless. It's the war between your comfort and your character, between being liked and being respected, between false peace and true integrity. There's a particular weight to this for men, in my opinion. We're raised with these contradictory messages. Be strong, but don't be aggressive. Be confident, but don't be arrogant. Stand up for yourself, but don't be too difficult. Protect others, but don't be too controlling. And threading that needle is simply exhausting. Society tells us that good men are gentle, that they're peacekeepers, that they avoid violence and conflict at all costs. And yes, mindless aggression is not the answer. Violence should never be the first resort. But here's what gets lost in the message. Sometimes strength and confrontation are exactly what's needed. Jordan Peterson talks about this in a way that really resonated with me. He says that harmless men are not good men. A good man is a dangerous man who has his danger under control. A man who could be violent, who has the capacity to be violent, but chooses not to be. That's virtuous. But a man who couldn't be violent, even if he wanted to, that's not virtual. That is weakness. And I think that applies beyond the physical violence. It applies to all forms of standing your ground. A man who could enforce his boundaries, who could say no, who could confront wrongdoing, but chooses those moments carefully. That's what I call wisdom. But a man who can't do these things, who's afraid of conflict, who's always backs down, he's not peaceful. He's just harmless. And harmless men can't protect anything, not themselves, not their loved ones, not even their principles. So, what does it mean, go to war for peace? Let me be clear. I'm not talking about violence here. I'm talking about being willing to endure conflict, discomfort, and disapproval in service of something greater than your own comfort. Going to war means having difficult conversations. It means telling your friend that their drinking is out of control and you're worried about them, even though they might get defensive and angry. It means telling your family member that behavior at holidays is unacceptable and it won't be tolerated anymore, even though it might cause a rift. It means speaking up in meetings when you see a decision being made that you know is wrong, even though you might be seen as not being a team player. Setting and enforcing boundaries. It means saying no when you're already overextended, even though someone will be disappointed. It means ending relationships that are toxic, even though you'll be lonely for a while. It means standing firm in your principles, even when pressure is applied to compromise them. Confronting wrongdoing. Hmm. It means intervening when you see someone being mistreated, even though it's easier to just look away. It means reporting unethical behavior, even though it might affect your career. It means standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, even though no one asked you to get involved. All of these things create conflict. They disturb peace, and they make you temporarily the bad guy in some stories, right? And that's hard. That's really hard, especially if you're someone who values harmony and wants people to like you. But here's what I've learned: temporary discomfort of conflict is nothing compared to the long term corrosion of living without integrity. The momentary loss of approval is nothing compared to the permanent loss of self respect. And we will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by Polished Custom Builders, where they specialize in building your dream into a reality through custom home building, renovations, and interior design. Check them out at polishedcustombuilders.com, where the most beautiful house in the world is the one that you build yourself. There's something else I want to address here because I think it's at the core of this dilemma: responsibility. When you decide to be a good man rather than just a nice guy, you're taking responsibility. You're saying, I won't look away. I won't stay silent. And I will not pretend everything's fine when it's not. And that's heavy. It's so much easier to just go along, to not get involved, to let someone else handle it. But see, that's how we end up with communities where everyone knows something's wrong, but nobody does anything about it. Everyone's being nice, nothing's being good. I think about this in terms of concentric circles of responsibility. At the center of you, your own integrity, your own growth, your own boundaries, then your family, then your friends, then your community, then your society. You can't take responsible for everything. You'll burn out. But you can be responsible for your circle. You can be the person who stands up in your family, who speaks truth among your friends, who models integrity in your workplace. And here's the beautiful thing: when you do that, you give others permission to do the same. Courage, my friends, courage is contagious. When people see someone stand up, it makes it easier for them to stand up too. But let's be honest. Let's be honest about the cost, because there is one. When you go to war for peace, when you choose to be good rather than nice, you will lose things. You'll lose some relationships, right? Not everyone can handle someone with boundaries and principles. Some people are only in your life because you're useful to them. And when you stop being a doormat, they will leave. You'll lose some opportunities. Speaking truth to power might cost you a promotion. Standing on principle might cost you your clients or even your customers. Taking a stand might cost you some social capital. Another one, you lose some comfort. Life is easier when you just go along. When you start challenging things, when you start holding people accountable, when you start enforcing those boundaries we talked about, there's going to be some friction. There's going to be some discomfort and there's going to be some conflict. But here's what you'll gain: yourself. You'll gain your self respect. You'll gain the ability to look in the mirror and be proud of who you see. You'll gain the knowledge that you stood for something. You'll gain relationships that are real, based on mutual respect rather than your willingness to be a doormat. You'll gain the respect of people worth being respected by. And ultimately, you'll gain real peace. Not the false peace of avoided conflict, but the deeper peace that comes from living in alignment with your values. So, how do we resolve this paradox? How do we be both strong and kind, both principled and compassionate, both warriors and peacemakers? I think the answer lies in understanding that true peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of justice, of respect, of healthy boundaries. And sometimes achieving that requires fighting. The good man, the man you should aspire to be, is not the man who never fights. It's the man who fights for the right things in the right way and at the right time. He's not aggressive, but he's not passive either. He's assertive. He knows his values and he defends them. He knows his boundaries and he enforces them. He sees wrongdoing and he confronts it. But, and this is crucial, he does it from a place of principle, not ego. He's not fighting to dominate. He's not fighting to prove that he's tough. He's not fighting because his feelings are hurt and his pride is wounded. He's fighting because something genuinely matters and someone needs to stand up for what that is. This is the difference between a warrior and, say, a bully. A warrior fights to protect, a bully fights to control. A warrior knows when to put down the sword. A bully is always looking for the next battle. Let me offer some practical wisdom as we begin to close this out. First, pick your battles. Not every hill is worth dying on. Sometimes letting something go is wisdom, not weakness. Save your energy for what truly matters. Second, check your motives. Before you go to war, ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right or because my ego is involved? Am I standing on principle or am I just being stubborn? Third, be respectful in conflict. You can enforce boundaries and challenge wrongdoing without being cruel. Strength does not require meanness. You can be firm and kind at the same time. Fourth, accept the consequences. If you're going to take a stand, be prepared for the fallout. Don't expect everyone to applaud your courage. Some will call you difficult, some will walk away. And that's the price of integrity. Fifth, take care of yourself. Living this way is hard, it's exhausting sometimes. Make sure you have support, make sure you have places where you can rest. You can't be at war all the time. Even warriors need to lay down their weapons and recover every now and then. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. You're not a bad person for having boundaries. You are not difficult for standing on your principles. You're not a troublemaker for confronting wrongdoing. And I always say this one: you're not selfish for prioritizing your own integrity over other people's comfort. Sometimes and oftentimes, being a good man means being temporarily disliked. It means creating conflict in service of resolution. It means going to war for peace. The question isn't whether you'll face this choice. You will. The question is, what will you choose? Will you be nice or will you be good? Will you keep the false peace or will you fight for the real thing? Will you be harmless or will you be a good man who has chosen peace? The world needs good men, not perfect men, because none of us are perfect, but men who are trying, men who are willing to stand for something, men who understand that sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is refuse to accept false peace. So, go to war when you must, not with violence, not with cruelty, but with courage, with principle, and with firm boundaries and a clear conscience, because that's what good men do. This is Rod Manuel with the Double Edge Factor. And if you found this episode or even a few words value added, share this episode with just one person. The only way we grow this podcast is when you guys share it. The more you share, the greater impact we can have on more listeners around the world. So, hit that subscribe button to never miss another episode. Or you can go to rodmanuel.com. That's RODMANUEL.com, where you can subscribe and have access to my latest coaching insights, podcast episodes, my latest book entitled Faith on Demand, and other exclusive content. So don't forget to join that email list. And I'll leave you with this, my friends. Be intentional with your words, be intentional with your thoughts, and be intentional with your actions. And always find a way to be a blessing to someone else today.